Good evening, it's Kaiser here, and in this Star Trek CCG First Edition deck building video, we'll have a look at a Bajoran deck with a point loss dilemma strategy. So today, let's have a look at the dilemmas here first. If I say dilemmas, I'll also mean the Q-Flash part here. We have a seeded Q-Flash doorway that has just got new support in the form of a couple of new cards here. And what we're trying to do here is trigger as many point loss dilemmas as we can and still have some stopping power at the same time. So, for example, we are running Misinterpreted History into Lack of Preparation, followed by Q, a Dazzling Flash, which will then trigger a Q Flash. The idea is that they run into this dilemma, maybe are stopped initially. It's a dilemma that works surprisingly often. Then try and beat it with a team that is so small that we only have one choice of a personnel to kill, and such a micro team will then often fail the lack of preparation. This has worked surprisingly often for me. You can also do this as the last dilemma and Misinterpret History as the second to last, and start with the Q Flash works just as well. So this is a potential 10-point loss here, and then we have the Q Flash, and let's have a look at our Q Flash there. You can see that we'll have a couple of quandaries that can be a potential 5-point loss. We also have the Mandarin Bailiff that gives the opponent a choice of either have the personnel captured or transferring points to us. And sometimes they are in danger of losing a critical skill and don't know what's going on with the following dilemmas. So often, especially if it's a personnel that doesn't have a lot of skills, they are willing to just give us those 2 or 3 points, and we are trying to chip a little bit away from the score over the course of every mission, and hopefully then this will force them into, if it was supposed to be a 2-mission win, to force them into a 3rd one, or ideally even a 4th one. And as you can see, we have some other things like Hazardous Duty, which can trigger a -5-point loss if a non-officer dies later on. And for that, we have Misinterpreted History again, that allows us to kill someone, or the M113 creature that we can use as a floater. So there are a couple of options to trigger point losses at all the missions, but nothing is really guaranteed there. We are running 20 dilemmas here, so the Dead End or this M113 creature could be used as floaters or just arrange the dilemmas in whichever way you see fit. And I've also put a Kobayashi Maru scenario in the regular seats, so that when you see that your opponent is, when you think that he's likely to attempt a certain mission, then you can put the Kobayashi Maru on it. It's also great with lack of preparation, because many people simply forget about the fact that Kobayashi Maru adds computer skill to the mission. And then they attempt this mission, sometimes even though they have seen the lack of preparation before, but they suddenly forget about the extra computer skill that they need. And it's always hilarious when they score another 10 points and hold them off for another turn that way. Okay. But that's really a strategy that in itself probably won't be enough to force them into heavy point loss. So we are also supporting this with some other cards. So let's put these all back in the Dyson Sphere for the moment. We are running a Bajoran deck because this gives us access to some other point loss stuff that we try and pull off there. Let's just have a look at the missions we are running. We are in the Bajor region, of course, but we'll also have some others as well. So we have the standard Bajor setup of the homeworld itself and characterize neutrino missions as a high point space mission, and also acquire illicit explosives, which only gives 25 points and sometimes doesn't get the best dilemmas, but we can use that to our advantage and attempt it. And we are also running the Demilitarized Zone, and the Badlands. When seeding the missions, I would try to isolate one or two of our opponent's missions, see if we can get one of our opponent's missions in between our regions here, so we can still fly past it and don't have to invest as much range, but our opponent will have to cross 2 missions or 3 to get to that one mission, because then we can maybe put only a 2-card combo there and concentrate more dilemmas on some of the other missions there. But it's not a big deal if it doesn't work out that way. Try and have those 2 planets, Investigate Maquis Activity and Alter Records, close together, because these are the places where our personnel will usually report. Bajorans, of course, at their homeworld, and we are pairing this with Maquis, and they can report to a Demilitarized Zone planet, or they could also report to the Badlands planet. So if this was somewhere over here, maybe we'd try and put Bajor there then, and make sure we can combine our forces relatively quickly. Okay, this deck isn't as seed heavy as some of the others you might have seen in this series, so we are running the Chamber of Ministers as one of our free report engines. We are also running Bajoran Resistance Cell, allowing our Bajoran Resistance personnel to play or to report at a Bajoran region planet, so that will be the homeworld as well, or also to a Bajoran facility or ship once we have those out. We run Deep Space Nine, which we can put in orbit of Bajor. That would make logistics a little bit easier, but we can also put it at one of the space missions and then use the advantage of one of the sites for our mission attempts. That's something that I usually tend to do. We have a Defend Homeworld for a security download. We have, they call themselves the Maquis, which allows a unique Maquis personnel to report for free once per turn to a Demilitarized Zone planet or a Badlands planet. And we'll also have a Call for Reinforcements, which is a once per game ship download, universal ship, but it can be quite important in this deck to have a reliable way to get a ship out. Let's have a quick look at the sites that we're using. We definitely need Quark's Bar. There will also be the Science Lab, which lets us peek at dilemmas under the space mission here. The Promenade Shops can be good for a cycling ability. Drawing cards. Guest Quarters is actually the one I had in mind that allows us to cycle. So draw 2 cards and place one of them beneath draw deck if we have the correct personnel there. There's the Cargo Bay, which allows us to download Morn and Gint later on. And the docking ports, which allows us to report freighters for free. So I'm not bothering with putting them in the correct order here. But if you have played with sites before, you should be familiar with what they do. Otherwise, you're probably not going to find out a huge amount of detail in this deck presentation. I'll try and do one later on. They call themselves the Maquis, also downloads the Art of Diplomacy, which in turn allows us to use 2 Treachery as 1 Diplomacy. There's a deck in the series that uses this to great effect somewhere. So that works for Maquis personnel and Resistance personnel, which are of course personnel that we are going to use. And that's about it. The deck will be filled with a lot of personnel that report for free. Almost all of them report for free. We have Resistance personnel who report for free with Bajoran Resistance Cell. We have personnel who report for free to the Bajoran headquarters, so vedex, ministers, and so on. We have personnel who report for free to Quark's Bar, like Lita as a Dabo girl, or Rome because he gets called out here. There is, for example, a Bajoran version of Quark that also reports for free there. Don't see him at the moment. Probably hiding somewhere. Doesn't really matter now. Dex is a Vedic, so she reports there. Burrell is a resistance personnel, so let's just pull them all out. Taban is a resistance personnel. Winadami plays at the Chamber of Ministers. Ranjan is a minister. Dabo is resistance. Borum is resistance. Morn doesn't play for free. We'll put him aside for the moment. Gant is resistance. Riker Will is a Maquis personnel, so a unique Maquis personnel, so he can report with, they call themselves the Maquis. Tiro is a Maquis, is also a Vedic, so he can also report there. Belana is a Maquis. Don't worry about her Star Trek Voyager property logo. That doesn't matter. We are not tied down by any property logos in this deck. And also, we are not bothered at all by her being a Delta Quadrant native personnel, because the call themselves the Maquis simply says your Maquis ships and Maquis personnel may report to your Liberty or to your Badlands or Demilitarized Zone planet mission. This is not a site, this is not a facility, so quadrant restrictions don't apply because this is special reporting. Look it up in the rulebook if you don't think this works. Lore is just a regular free play. We could also use Defend Homeworld to grab him via the security. There's more resistance, more resistance. There's the aforementioned Quark. There's another copy of Lita. Odo can't report for free, but we can also get him via Defend Homeworld if we want. Macius is a Maquis. Chakotay, another Delta Quadrant Maquis personnel. Resistance, resistance. Maquis, resistance, Maquis. I'm just trying to show that almost all the guys here can report for free in some way, and this is also true of the ships, because we have docking ports, which allows freighters and transports to report for free. So Bajoran Freighter and Zippolite Freighter report for free there. And the only ship that would cost us the card play is the assault vessel here, which is probably our first download with call for reinforcements, because it also has a tractor beam and range of 8 can be quite useful. There's another gun that we missed earlier. So as you can see, we are left with a lot of non-personal cards here, and these are mostly copies of Handshake. It has 3 functions here. We are usually interested in playing it for the last function. Plays if you have at least 3 other cards in hand, discard entire hand, and draw 7 cards. So we spend the card play, and then we can draw until we have 7. So the idea here with this engine is that, first of all, you empty your hand down to 4 cards. So play all the stuff that you can play for free. And then you have a Handshake and 3 others in hand. You used your card play to play Handshake, and then boom, you have 7 new cards in hand, maybe including a couple of more free plays. So we have quite a lot of non-personal cards there. There are also Mutations. Mutation is simply a card that lets you cycle through your deck. Discard 1 card to draw 2. So you often have lots of Handshakes, more than you need. So you can discard a Handshake with Mutation, and then you replace those 2 cards with 2 others, maybe personal, that you can play for free. There is also the Power. Again, this is a card that helps us cycle. We can play it to draw 2 cards and discard 1 of them, and that will be our choice. So look at the next 2 cards. 1 we get to keep, 1 we have to discard. Or we can also play it for the last function, draw 3 and discard 1 of our opponent's choice. This is not done as often, but it allows you to manipulate your hand size. If this is your last card in hand, you play it, you can draw 3, and your opponent gets to discard 1, so you have effectively gained 1 hand card. A rather powerful ability, but it comes at the cost of your opponent getting to choose one of the cards you want in the discard pile. But you might have noticed that we are not too worried about discarding cards here, because there are a couple of things that let us get cards out of this discard pile. I'll point your attention towards Maquis. For example, Maquis may exchange for a Maquis personal in your discard pile. So if a good guy like Chakotay had to be discarded due to a handshake or something like that, Maquis can then sacrifice himself. He jumps into the discard pile and Chakotay comes back. And the Bajoran Resistance also has a similar function in Borum here. May exchange for a Bajoran leader in your discard pile. So if, for example, Kira Nerys has died with leadership, or Barile, no, he's not actually a leadership personnel. Where is she? Winadami. Then Borum can jump into the discard pile and this personnel gets out. And we are especially interested in getting Winadami out, because we want to have her in play. She has a very useful download of Diplomatic Contact, which is a key card here. It can play on her, and then once each turn you may discard a non-personal card from hand. And as you can see, we have a lot of non-personal cards in our deck. To place a personal from a discard pile, not the top card or anything, we can look through our entire discard pile and just choose one personal we really need and put them on top of our deck. If that personal is the same affiliation as this personal, so the personal on which this is played, we have to discard it. But as you can see, we can do this for non-alliance all the time. We can just discard one of our excess handshakes to get Chakotay out of the discard pile, or Maquis, or Belana Torres, or Lore, or Morn, and so on. It also works for the dual affiliation personnel. So we could say Lita's in this card pile. We get her out because she's a Ferengi card. Use her in Ferengi mode there. And we could just as well use the Ferengi card back for all these guys. So then it would be obvious that they are not the same affiliation there. And that's how we can replenish personnel that we had to discard early on. There is also a download of Dig that's on Ranch and Corral. That's a similar card, but it only works once. We can get any card from the discard pile back into our hand. So if you read through the text, there are various options on what exactly to do, but most of the time we use the discard a card from hand to take any one card from our discard pile into hand. That's the last function here, and then we'll have to discard it. Okay, so that's that. And as you can see, there are a couple of other cards in the deck as well. Hidden Fighter is a staple in such a deck to get small ships out. You also grab, where is it? Established landing protocols at the same time, so you can actually land, which might be helpful against certain dilemmas. Another interrupt that you'll find in the deck is one that supports our point loss theme here, and that's Khan. Just after an opponent scores bonus points, nullify those bonus points. So if you see that your opponent is running Assigned Mission Specialists or Preserver Obelisk or something that lets them score easy bonus points, it's always a good idea to try and have a Khan in hand for the time when they actually want to score the bonus points. If, for example, they plan to do a 35-point mission with 2 mission specialists, you can use Khan to nix all those 10 bonus points they will get from Assigned Mission Specialists. And that can really be everything it takes to turn a 2-mission win deck into a 3-mission win deck, or a 3-mission win into a 4-mission win deck. So that's a very powerful card, and it sometimes makes people scream in agony when you hit them with it. The rest are really just some supporting cards here, like HQ War Room for extra attributes here, or the Space-Time Portal that we can play for free to keep playing alternate universe cards, because there are a few in the deck. And the only other card we haven't mentioned yet is Isomagnetic Disintegrator, that allows us to shuffle our hand into the discard pile and then exchange the discard pile with our draw deck. So usually there are several copies of this in the deck. I usually run 3. I think the deck list at the moment only says 1, but you really should put 3 in, because then you can have it in the discard pile, and then when your deck is running low, you can use it to replenish your entire discard pile and set it up as your new draw deck, so you don't really run out of cards. But depending on how fast your meta is, you might actually cut them all together and just say, I'm drawing through my deck very quickly, but once I have done that, I have enough stuff in play so that I can solve the missions or lose the game before it comes to the point where I need to recycle. Okay, and I think I've missed talking about the draw engines other than Handshake. We can grab Morn with the Cargo Bay, who then lets us draw an extra card if he hangs out at Quark's Bar. And of course, with Bajoran Resistance Cell, we also have the espionage cards in there. There's one. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 missions that have the the Cardassian affiliation icon. So once per turn with Bajoran Resistance Cell, as soon as we have 2 resistance guys out, we can download one of those espionage cards and then draw 2 cards for that. And with that, we should have enough drawing power to get to our most important stuff rather quickly. Okay, so let's just put all those cards in the deck and just do a test draw and see how this actually plays out, whether we have a nice spread of cards that we can report to the different play engines, or whether this is all just theory here. Let's draw 7. Deck is shuffled, but we can have a look. Okay, so in this typical starting hand, we have a resistance personal, which is one of the most important things here. We really want to have 2 out early on. In this case, we already have 2 in our opening hand, so we can play one of them for free to Bajor. We can play Belana Torres as a free Maquis personal. We have a Bajoran espionage card that we can't use yet. I mean, we could use it by using our card play on Linalas, and then we could immediately download it from our hand and we won't have to waste it. But even if one goes to waste, that isn't that much of a big deal. We could also mutate here to just discard, for example, the other mutation and draw 2. If we are looking for more free plays, for example, somebody who could report to Quark's Bar or to the Chamber of Ministers, or we could also play the Handshake. So at the moment we really have all the options. Let's just say we'll play Linalas as our regular card play. Then we could go into our orders phase and download our first espionage card. We could start by downloading one from our hand, so then we wouldn't have to download it, or then we don't have to discard it. Draw 2 cards for that. There's already a Khan. We have a Rungeon that we at this point can't play anymore because we're already in the orders phase. But we could, for example, mutate away the other mutation, draw other cards, and just have a look what else we've got there. And then just draw a card to end our turn. And there's another espionage card. So for our next turn, turn 2, we could play Ranjan for free because he's a minister, or a prila actually. What does it say on the card here? One Bajoran minister, Vedic or Kai. And he is a Ranjan that serves as a minister, so that's why he plays for free. And with him out, we already have access to the dig that lets us get any card from the discard pile back. So we are already somewhat safe in what we can get back and what we can discard. We can free play a Maquis. So that's 2 of our free play engines used. And then with 4 cards in hand, we'd card play the handshake, discard our entire hand, draw 7 new cards. And then we could play a resistance personal for free because we haven't done that. With the power, we could then draw 2 cards, discard one of them. We don't have to do that right now. But as you can see, this is an engine that runs relatively steadily, as long as you remember that in order to fuel the handshake, you need handshake and 3 other cards in hand. Let's just play the rest of this turn. Let's download an espionage card. First ones we download are usually the ones we have in the draw deck and not the ones in the tent. So let's put this one here. Draw 2 cards for that. So there's power, power, power. We can use it to just discard it to draw 1 card, or we can draw 2 and discard one of them of our choice. Let's just try the first function here, discard it to draw 1 card. So there's a handshake. So we are already set up for our next turn. Let's draw 1 to end. And beginning of turn 3, we could free play a resistance personal, free play a Vedic, free play a Maquis personal. We could use the handshake to replenish our hand. We haven't drawn a ship now, so now is probably a good time to trigger the call for reinforcements to download a ship, a universal ship. Let's grab the assault vessel. And then we could fly over, have our crews join, and start attempting missions. I'd probably keep Ranjan Corral safe for the moment, because we need him for the dig later on. We still have our Defend Homeworld download available. Often we would use that to grab Kira Nerys with the security, because she's a resistance personal if we need a second one. If she's one we have in our opening hand, we could also go for Shaka Edon, who also has security. There he is. And one of the cards we'd really love to have out early is Lita. There are 2 copies in the deck. Sometimes I think about adding a 3rd one. Lita immediately downloads Dabo when she enters play. And if you've never seen Dabo, it's a super powerful card. Any player who has personal here, so at Quark's Bar, it plays at Quark's Bar, may wager 1 to 3 cards from the discard pile. As you've seen, we are discarding a lot of cards, a lot of interrupts, a lot of handshakes, and we don't need those later on. So we can wager, for example, the mutations and the handshakes, wager 3 cards, and then probe. Probing means reveal the top card of our deck. So this happens before our end of turn draw. And if we do this, let's probe. In this case, it's a personal. It has the skill dot icon. If it has the skill dot icon, we place the wagers in our point area, and we score 2 points for each of those cards. So that's a potential 6 points per turn. And what's really neat in this deck here is that once you have Win Adami out, you can rig your gambling. I'll just show you how this works. There's Win Adami. She plays for free once we've drawn her. she downloads Diplomatic Contact from the queue stand. And then she says, once each turn, discard a non-personal card from hand. So let's just, for example, discard this Handshake to place a personal from a discard pile on top of your deck. So we do this once we have put a non-aligned personal in our discard pile, or one of them has died. We can always get one in the discard pile by mutating them away or handshaking them away. And then we put, for example, Belana Taurus on top of our deck. That's the order that we would do before we end our turn. And then when we end our turn, we probe. Let's hit the probe button. And of course, it is Belana Taurus with this kill dot icon. So we can really rig the game here and make sure that we always score those points once we have those things set up. So this is how we are going to add some bonus points. And maybe we get some bonus points from the Q-Flash cards here if our opponent transfers points with the Mandarin Bailiff to us. And hopefully we can then pull off a 2-mission win, and our opponent needs to do a 3rd or a 4th mission. There is one more card that I haven't mentioned yet that supports the point loss strategy, and that is the Odd Ferengi here, Grand Nagus Gint. How do we get him out? He is a acquisition personal, so we can use Cargo Bay. It says smuggling, acquisition, and non-aligned navigation personnel may report here or download here in place of a normal card play. So our regular normal card play could also at one point be used to download Grand Nagus Gint there. And of course he can't mix with our Bajoran personnel. He could mix with our non-aligned personnel. But what's really interesting here is that he is the download of any rule card. And this rule card must download to his location because it plays on a mission. So in this case, if our Deep Space Nine is at Acquire Listed Explosives, he could download it on that mission. Or we could also just let him hop aboard a freighter. For example, Morn and Gint together can fly the Zipperlight freighter and then just fly him to the mission where we want this done. But what does it do then? This rule here plays on our unattempted mission. So once we've done a mission attempt, we can no longer play it. We have to just gamble early on and decide where we want to put it. And then it says it's automatically nullified if we begin a mission attempt with less than 3 personnel or with more than 7. So if our opponent is playing some specific combinations of dilemmas that require us to bring a lot of personnel, we will have to nullify it. But most of the time there are ways to get through the missions with teams that max out at 7. If we solve, score points, and that's a whopping 10 points. What's even more important, our opponent loses points. And then this gives us a huge step forward to our 2-mission win, and it sets our opponent back quite a bit. And it's not even unique per game, so we could also play more rules of acquisition or more 60-second rule of acquisition on other missions, though they would cost us a card play then. With Gint, we can get one out when we need it. We don't have to do this early on. We could start, for example, attempting alter records. Often we will run into a dead end there. Then we can grab Gint, put the 60-second rule of, for example, on acquire illicit explosive, solve that for a measly 25, boost it by 10 from here, brings us to 35. If we have Dabo out, we can get to 41, 47, 53 points, and then we are already past the dead end range, and then score 35 there, Dabo for a couple more turns, and hopefully our point loss strategy has meant that our opponent needs to fly to several missions and attempt there, lose a couple of personnel here and there, and maybe then we are ahead and actually win the game that way. If you just take the draw deck side and ignore the point loss part, then you still have a very solid deck. The Bajoran Maquis thing was used, I think, as early as 2014, maybe even earlier than that. I don't remember when the missing parts came out. It's often also combined with Sonar, with the Insurrection mission, for even more free reports, and it's just really powerful. It still holds up quite well, even with some new dilemmas that have come out. So if you realize that the point loss stuff is not working out at all, just ditch it and use 20 or 21 regular dilemmas, and you're still left with a decent deck. But I thought I might try it with the new Q-Flash stuff and see how it goes. Okay, that's all I've got for you for this time. If you have any feedback, I'd appreciate it very much. If this is the first time you've watched, maybe subscribe to this channel. Let me know if there's anything you liked or not. Until next time, expand your power in the universe. Bye bye.